Hello, Starfarers, and welcome back to the Tetra Galaxy Telecast. For today's transmissions topic, I'll be taking to correcting a most grievous misinterpretation of our beloved Samus Aran of Metroid fame. Specifically, I'll be addressing the horrific highballing of the Metroid universe's franchise frontrunner, which comes at the hands of none other than the scourge of the Metroid community, the pontificating power scaler known as the RAIDER. Well, no more, I say. It ends this day, for I'll be going over the series, and through analyzing and interpreting the feats and statements Samus has had through the decades, I'll be giving you the true power scaling of Samus. Take no longer the word of that rapscallious RAIDER for truth, and join me as I, the prestigious Tetra Galaxy Telecast, set out to prove how strong is Samus really in 2025. Without any further delays, let's begin. The first category we'll be looking at is the Strength category, which consists of attack power, lifting strength, durability,
and so on and so forth.
I mean, I'm power scaling here. Obviously, I'm going to start with power. Anyways, I'm going to start by doing what any good power scaler would do, determining the power level for the character based on their clear and consistent feats, which of course, Samus has quite a few of. For starters, a consistent feat for many of Metroid's characters, Samus included, is surviving on planets with supermassive gravity. If you've watched one of my previous broadcasts, Telecast 2 to be specific, you'll know that I found the gravity of planet Zebes to be a staggering 1065.324,85173 times that of Earth's gravity. Given that I am the only reliable source of information, I can assure you that these numbers are accurate. With that being known, Samus is easily superhuman, as a real person would instantly be crushed on a planet such as this. Beyond just surviving, Samus is also capable of incredible movement on these supermassive planets, such as jumping multiple times her height. To jump as high as Samus does with that gravity, Samus would have to produce 17,593,428.826089 joules of energy, or around the equivalent of 4.2 pounds of TNT, putting her between wall level and room level. Are you guys waiting for something? My calc? Oh, silly. I'm not actually going to show you the math behind it. You're just going to have to trust me. I'm digressing, however. The point is, if Samus was bouncing around on Earth any time between 1961 and 1989, there is a certain wall that would have fallen a lot sooner. Obviously, I shouldn't have to tell you that her actual attacks are stronger than her jumping, given that she, attacks with them. That's the amount of gravity she consistently overcomes. Oh, I forgot about air resistance, so I'll round up to nuclear bomb level just to be safe. I can't say exactly where the attacks align power levels, but lower level attacks like basic beam should be at least a tier or two up from her jumping. Using the nuclear bomb that hit Hiroshima, her jumping would be around 20,000 tons of TNT, which would be 20 kilotons and a town level attack. Why the Hiroshima bomb, you may ask? Well, the Hiroshima bomb was dropped on Japan, and Nintendo, who created Metroid, is also based in Japan, so it makes more logical sense that Samus's jumps would be based on the bomb that swept the country, like the Warriors swept the Cavs in the 2018 finals, rather than on the level of some other non-Japan associated nuke like Tsar Bomba. Anyways, I think it's safe to say that basic beams are at least 5 times stronger than that, as Samus actually attacks with it. Why 5? Just kinda seems right, vibes based. Substantially higher, but not absurdly so. As such, it'd be at least a large town level attack, and could be stronger than that, but it has to be lower than mountain level. You see, Samus's basic beam is consistently ineffective against Ridley, and generally in power scaling, attack power is equal to durability. The prequel manga shows Ridley blowing up a mountain, or at least a very large part of one, and applying the rule, that means that his durability should be equivalent to the lower end of mountain level. I guess it could be higher, but I don't think he has any feats proving such, and if he did, I couldn't be bothered to check. I'm scaling Samus here, not Ridley. Come on, cut me some slack. I mean, you know how hard I work out here? Missiles and charge beam shots can both damage him, so those attacks have to be at least mountain level AP. Super missiles have been anywhere from 3 to 5 times stronger than ordinary missiles throughout the series, so while they would still be in the mountain level range, they should be on the higher end of it, and the charge beam with enhancements like the plasma beam and wave beam should be a bit higher considering they consistently are stronger in the series than super missiles, but they're relative to each other enough that I'd say full power charge shots should also still be in the high end of mountain level. Power bombs are generally Samus' strongest ordinary weapon. Obviously, they don't blow up the planet or anything, but it is capable of rocking the entire BSL station. BSL station, when colliding with SR3D8's surface, impacted with enough force to vaporize the planet. SR3D8's gravity is, accounting for both versions of Metroid 2, 1,433 Gs, as I found in Telecast 2, and while SR3D8's size is unknown, Metroid planets are close enough to Earth size that I feel good using Earth's size as a reference point. The SAX dropping a power bomb is said to have rocked the station. For the station to be able to destroy SR3D8 at SR3D8's gravity and size, the station would have to be at a size of its own, wherein the energy required to move the station 1 meter, in other words, rocking it, something lower than that would not be described as rocking it, generally speaking, would place the power bomb rocking the station at a whopping 1.9178134321223923923 zetatons, which would put the feat at the lower end of small planet level. Again, I'm not actually going to show you the math behind it. Understanding it for yourself is unimportant. That's a job for people like me with a high IQ. The screw attack and speed booster may be about as strong or somewhat stronger than the power bombs depending on incarnation, but unless they were over 30 times stronger than power bombs, they'd still be in the small planet range for AP, and them being over 30 times stronger is a huge stretch, one I've clearly demonstrated I am not willing to make. The hyper beams are the strongest weapons, but we don't really see enough of them to scale them to a proper level, so I'll have to leave those alone. With that, we've reached the end of the attack potency segment, so let's get to the other parts. Durability also features a pretty solid baseline. Coming from Metroid Prime Hunters, Candon's Volt Driver is stated to take energy from the electromagnetic field of the planet he's on and use it to unleash multi-terawatt burst. 1 terawatt is equal to 860.420650, yeah, I don't care to read all those decimal points, kilotons of TNT in terms of energy, which, using that handy chart from earlier, puts the Volt Driver as a large town level attack. Given that Samus can survive these attacks, that's where her durability has to be at a minimum. Given that her basic beams and missiles are around this powerful in terms of attack potency, and given those are the weapons Samus uses in Metroid Prime Hunters, and like mentioned before, AP generally equals durability in power scaling, this actually lines up perfectly with what I'd scaled her basic attacks to. By way of that, it would make sense that her durability scales to her AP as stronger enemies come along that Samus takes out with stronger weapons. This only seems to work when she's conscious though, since she insinuates that she would have died crashing into an asteroid when she was knocked out due to X-parasite infection, meaning if she doesn't manually maintain her durability, it drops, like how Ki drops for Dragon Ball. It also only seems to work for life and death situations, as Prime 1 irrefutably shows that she can lose her upgrades by being slammed into a wall, including the Varia suit, therefore rendering every instance of her having higher durability than wall level as outliers, save for the aforementioned life or death scenarios. So in short, Her durability can match her and her enemy's attack power if the attack in question would prove fatal, where it will then take energy from her suit. Otherwise, her durability is wall level, which would make her a Master Chief victim. I mean, he could flip a tank. Imagine what he'd do to Samus. Her lifting strength is also pretty solid, where in Other M, she's seen throwing around a creature known as Vorash, throwing it high in the air. Vorash's weight isn't known, but come on, he's a lava whale. It says whale right there. With that, I'm gonna say he weighs the same as a blue whale, sitting at 181.436948 metric tons, continuing my channel's history of using blue whales for reference. Using my sample weight, Samus on Zebes would weigh 198 pounds times 1065.32485,173, which comes out to a staggering 210,934.320643 pounds, or 105.46716,0322 tons. For reference, the largest animal to ever live on Earth, the blue whale, weighs up to 100 tons, meaning Samus's weight on Zebes is more than that of a blue whale in our oceans. Truly crazy stuff. With Zebes' gravity as the frame of reference, as Vorash is Zebesian, Vorash on the bottle ship would be 193,289.29 metric tons, which would make lifting him a Class M lifting feat on Versus Battle Wiki, and is approximately in the same weight class as the largest ships on Earth. That's before accounting for the viscosity of the lava, which is 10,000 to 100,000 times the viscosity of water, and would make Samus lifting Vorash out of the lava require an even higher lifting feat. But I don't know how to calculate viscosity and all that, so I don't know what you want me to do. What you got is what you're getting. You don't like it, maybe you could, you know what, maybe you could take a shot at it. But I know you won't, because your Discord mod, Perfect Circle, Wario looking goofy ass, too lazy to get out from your mother's basement and do it yourself. I mean, seriously, you want to talk about a Class M lifting feat? How about your legs getting you from the basement to the top of the stairs? That should be all for the raw power components of power scaling, so it's time to move on to the next category, which is speed, of which there are a couple types: travel speed, combat speed, attack speed, reaction speed, perception speed, and flight speed. And we don't gotta talk about flight speed since Samus can't fly, she ain't built for that. Travel speed is the easiest to gauge of the bunch, as it has been made mention of multiple times that the speed booster allows Samus to run at supersonic speeds, from Super Metroid all the way to Dread. Take note of the wording there. It allows her to run at supersonic speeds, which would therefore mean that she can't run at supersonic speeds without it, so while unaided by the speed booster, Samus cannot be exceeding a travel speed of Mach 1.1, or 373.3 meters per second. With the speed booster, she could cap out in the Versus Battle Wiki system's actual supersonic range with an upper limit of Mach 2.5 or 857.5 meters per second, but let's be honest, the game devs could care less about power scaling, so the actual limiter here is probably hypersonic, meaning Samus could reach up to the top of Supersonic Plus tier at Mach 5 or 1,715 meters per second, so long as she has a speed booster. Attack speed is generally faster than travel speed, and Samus is no exception to the rule. My first intermission is a great example of such. I'm gonna let you take a watch real quick. Take a look. True lasers, light beams, electricity, neutrinos. I mean, if you're still denying Samus having light speed, attack speed, bare minimum, I have to ask, do you have, eyes? And I will reiterate, I am the only reliable source of information. What I just presented is 100% accurate. Furthermore, considering the fact that Samus is capable of fighting and defeating a clone of herself, her reaction speed and perception speed should scale up to her attack speed, given that she'd need to react fast enough to dodge the SAX's attacks, and would have to be able to perceive the attacks in order to react to them. Combat speed should be around the level of her attack speeds, as she uses a melee counter in the newer games and sees it as a viable method of attack, despite already sporting a wide variety of lightspeed weaponry. Obviously the move wouldn't be used if it was orders of magnitude slower than the beams, and thus impractical. So in all, we have a Samus moving at up to Mach 5 running speeds, with a massive jump to at least light speed for combat, reaction, perception, and attack speed. The last major category, lest one slip my mind, is the abilities, or hacks category. Beyond the aforementioned resistance to supermassive gravity, Samus sports a wide range of unique abilities that bolster her power level. Temperature resistance is a notable one, as Samus seems to be cool with cool to the coolest, using the Ice Beam regularly, tanking Noxus's near absolute zero weapon, and traversing other frigid regions on the regular. She's got the Spring Ball, which lets her jump while in Morph Ball form, in an attack so awesome enemies drop whatever they're doing, just to behold it with their own two eyes, making it a secondary Ice Beam of sorts. She's got the Long Beam, which gives her beams that Marth grab range, and lastly, when she's not in the suit, she is capable of crawling, something the community was wondering why Metroid can't do for years. She's also capable of defeating Dark Samus and other Phazon beings through the power of steroids. And of course, while not an upgrade or general function, Samus is still a relatively normal and functioning human being, so she can throw them hands when the situation calls for it. She's got a couple other abilities, like bombs, but that's a lot of reading I don't want to do, and those upgrades aren't nearly as important, so I'm just going to skip over those. I'm not going to bore you. Now I just have a few minor attributes that didn't fit with the previous three categories. The first is range, or how far Samus's attacks go. Her melee range should be above average human, since she's 6'3", and the arm cannon helps reach further during melee counters. The beam range is not much further without the long beam, not going further than the extended melee range of up to 3 meters, I'd say. Of course, with the long beam, her range is infinite, because the long beam is just built different. He is him, trust me. The missiles, on the other hand, are traditional solid matter, unlike the beams, and having mass, they're affected by gravity, so even if they did have the long beam's infinite range, which they don't, they ain't got nothing on the long beam, man, they would stop after the rocket runs out of fuel and the current velocity is overcome by the planet's gravity. And unfortunately, the games don't give much in the way of how far they go, so I'll just say they stop before exiting the atmosphere. It's for the best, though. Samus is a bounty hunter, not a treasure hunter. She can't be dealing with no lawsuit because a stray missile that missed its mark 4 years ago collided with some far-off space station. Stamina is another pretty easy one to cover. One of the common techniques of Metroid games is the infinite bomb jump, which allows Samus to bomb jump forever. I mean, it's obvious. It's the infinite bomb jump. She clearly has to have infinite stamina to use an infinite bomb jump. And that's as far as energy exertion goes. The other two types of stamina, from what I gather, are pain tolerance and injury tolerance. Injury tolerance is honestly unknown since, do we even see Samus get injured? Samus never has a broken arm or fractured collarbone or season-ending pregnancy or, something like that. I guess she sustained grievous wounds fighting Kraid in the prequel manga, but she literally dies because of it, being revived by the Varia suit upgrade later. Oh, yeah, resurrections, something she could do. Anyways, as for pain tolerance, it's shown to be incredibly high, thanks to Samus's unbelievable willpower. Samus's willpower is a bastion of strength for the heroine, not that heroine, in its own right, and the source of her pain tolerance. It's said that even having a connection with a Chozo power suit is a great psychological undertaking, and even amongst Chozo, we see her strength in this area, as she's able to resist X-parasite infection long enough for the Federation scientists to develop a vaccine, something most, if not all, other characters in the series can't do. She stopped roiding up on Phazon long enough to completely destroy the substance, resisting the corruption that none of the other bounty hunters could, despite going to far greater lengths than they did, taking out all of the Leviathan seeds and going to planet Phase itself to defeat Dark Samus. Man, those other hunters are some bums for real. This willpower should easily be enough to classify as supernatural willpower, as resistance to this kind of mind control and persevering through the pain of complete anatomical corruption is way beyond what a human should be capable of. Her willpower isn't infinite, however, as these threats do pose, well, a threat to her, so I'd say she has easily supernatural willpower, but not enough to overcome an irresistible force, like, say, Leo Luster. I mean, he is every girl's dream after all. He says so himself.
You're gonna stop, because that's what you do when you're faced with an irresistible force. And irresistible is what I am, baby.
And who wouldn't take this ape's word as gospel? But just look at him! Intelligence is the last category to be discussed, but much like Samus's brain, there isn't much going on here. While she does have extensive combat training and experience, along with being highly capable with technology, she also doesn't know how to crawl while in the power suit. And, like, why can't she? Is she stupid? Also, for some reason, she agreed to take part in Metroid Other M, which, butchered her own character and caused the franchise to go into dormancy for 6 years, which was a short-sighted blunder she easily could have avoided if she wasn't dumb enough to think that she could handle contract negotiations herself. Like, girl, you are not Lamar Jackson. This is what agents are for. Hire one! She also manages to lose her upgrades like Kyle Shanahan loses Super Bowls. I mean, aren't these upgrades in the suit? How does she keep losing them? That or she just likes her missions like Donkey Kong's consistency.
What consistency do you think Donkey Kong is?
Hard.
She also needs to literally be knocked unconscious before the Federation can vaccinate her in Fusion, meaning Samus is an anti-vaxxer. Samus Aran? More like Samus Karen. I can give her the benefit of the doubt though. She was surrounded by idiots after all. I mean, look at the mission order she was given by the Federation in Metroid 1. This is the official galactic government giving the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy an official order, and they can't even spell the name of the planet right! Not to mention, this is the same organization that builds a ship that only has self-destruct functions inside the area you're trying to destroy! Even Dr. Doofenshmirtz knew better than that, and that dude thought he could conquer the tri-state area with zinc. God, these people are idiots. The Chozo are also pretty stupid, considering that they created pretty much all the problems throughout the series. Mother Brain, who ends up leading the Space Pirates, the Metroids, including Dark Samus, the Galactic Federation, which unfortunately includes the ringleaders, seriously, screw that guy, not to mention Ravenbeak himself being a power-hungry maniac. The Chozo are insanely lucky that Samus panned out when they took her in the 6th round, because they would have single-handedly destroyed the galaxy without the Drasteel of the century. They also became old and are going to die off because they just forgot to have sex. Morbius would never. And they're supposed to be an advanced race, so this is where brain power in Metroid peaks. Like I said, there's not much going on in Samus's head. With that, every category has now been covered, and we can now get to the last part of the broadcast, which may henceforth be known only as the Great Debunking. Now that I have the true power of Samus in place, and have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this broadcast isn't thinly veiled downplay masqueraded as proper power scaling to mask my disdain for strong women, it's time to put some of the scandalous lives of the poor Raider on ice. First of all, let's tackle the big kahuna of his falsehoods. Before we even get into actual scaling, the big claims of 5D multiversal and immeasurable speed he likes to make are garbage. Why? Because these claims rely on the Versus Battle Wiki dimensional tiering system. As such, they are wrong by default, and there is no argument to the contrary. In other words, is Samus really 5D?
No.
Alright, now for the actual scaling for me to debunk. First of all, claims to her attack potency are wildly exaggerated. The biggest one is probably the idea that her AP is multiple times that of universe level on her basic attacks, on account of her defeating Dark Samus, who after being defeated survived the collapse of Dark Aether, an alternate dimension equivalent to the normal universe, which is infinite in size. While I agree on the last 2 points, that's where the agreement ends, as Dark Samus tanking the collapse is not what happened. We literally see her reforming in the post-credits scene off of Planet Aether, which would suggest that she escaped from the Dark Aether dimension before it collapsed. That, and we know from earlier in the game that she can regenerate from anything short of total atomic disruption. So she didn't just casually tank the blast as Lore Raider likes to peddle on, she just regenerated after the fact. And again, we literally see this happening in the post-credits scene. I don't know how she escaped a collapsing universe despite not even being able to maintain her physical form, but she must have, because if she didn't, I'd be wrong. And I'd have to admit that I'm wrong, and that is not happening. He claims Ridley blowing up the mountain is a country-level attack due to the gravity, but fails to take into account that he doesn't destroy the entire mountain, probably because he can't read, making the claim dubious at best. Given that a country-level feat is easily called into question, higher claims like planet-level attacks can be ignored with extreme prejudice. He also claims that Samus gets stronger over time, but nothing in the games or manga support this, and it's pretty clear that Samus's power progression is only ever tied to her suits. If anything, she's getting weaker, as she goes from defeating 4 Omega Metroids one-on-one in Metroid 2 unaided, to needing an SA-X Machina to help her defeat 1 in Fusion. So this category has been debunked. Durability is another one that's way over-exaggerated. First of all, durability tends to scale to attack potency, so the universal, multiversal level durability from Prime 2, like the attack potency counterpart, is a joke. Beyond that, it should be pretty obvious to anyone who's played a Metroid game that any claims that her durability is above planetary are bogus. It's a staple of Metroid games to run away from the big planet-destroying explosions at the end of the game. Why would Galaxy or Universal or whatever Versal level durability Samus run away from the measly planet-destroying explosions? The reason is simple. It's because, unlike you pebble-brained plebeians listening to this broadcast, Samus knows she ain't built for that. She's getting out of there. And much like Goku at the Heart Attack Grill, even suppose lower-end feats Lore Raider proposes don't hold up. Like how he says that Samus tanked the crash to Zebes in Zero Mission. I don't know what game he was playing, but it's pretty clear that she survived that crash at the cost of her suit, which is why she can't summon it again until the Ruins test gives her her new suit. She didn't just tank the crash. I'd say I don't know how he missed that, but I suppose that's what happens when you ignore the entire narrative to pretend your favorite character can beat Goku in a fight. Speed may be the biggest blemish on those videos, as it becomes wildly exaggerated over and over and over again. I already addressed the immeasurable speed drivel that gets peddled on, but in the land of poor power scaling, there's more than one way to stretch a shadow. A common falsehood is gunship scaling, where Samus is claimed to scale in speed to her gunship, which can travel across galaxies in a matter of moments, making her up to quadrillions of times the speed of light. First of all, we don't know how far away the Tetra Galaxy is from the main galaxy in Metroid. I mean, I know, I live here, but you chums are never gonna find that out. For all you know, the galaxies could be closer to each other than Zion Williamson and the buffet table. Secondly, this contradicts the statement given numerous times that she only reaches supersonic speeds with the speed booster. One of these is a fan calc of a singular instance that doesn't even directly pertain to Samus, and the other is a repeated fact from official sources. Given that, and accounting for the fact that I hate the fans, which is why I still haven't gotten around to AM2R, I think you could see which side I'm standing with. Now you might say he's referring to other speeds and not travel speed, but that makes no sense either. Again, light speed weapons are fairly common throughout the series. Why would Samus even use them if her enemies were all quadrillions of times faster than them? It's stupid at best, and intentionally misrepresenting the series at worst. Beyond travel speed irrefutably capping at supersonic, her weapons being light speed weaponry should quell any arguments of Samus and others being these beings moving trillions of times the speed of light. Other arguments are also there, like he says Samus can outrun space pirate lasers and Chozo ruins test lightning, but this doesn't work either. Just because something looks like a laser or lightning doesn't mean it actually is one. That should be obvious when talking about fictional universes. Ignore that. Same goes for Ravenbeak's attack, which he claims is a black hole, and thus proves Samus moves beyond light speed since she isn't absorbed by it. There simply isn't any reason to believe that the attack is actually a black hole, beyond a vague aesthetical resemblance. The abilities are also almost all extremely exaggerated, but considering the fact that he doesn't even talk about the spring ball once in any of his 26 power scaling videos, that's a given. Knowing how obviously little research he put into that part of Samus's powers, any and all points he's brought up about her abilities can be disregarded on that one piece of knowledge alone. Finally, there's one more thing worth debunking. Samus is not a highly intelligent person, like Lore Raider claims. I mean, between everything I already mentioned, and considering how immature and emotionally distraught she is throughout the course of Metroid Other M, it's clearly demonstrated that Samus is actually quite a weak and unprofessional woman. With that, the matchup she wins and loses can also be set in stone. She beats Master Chief in a fight to the death thanks to her superior speed and nuclear bomb level jumping. She can still beat Doomguy in a fight, since she's more than strong enough to throw a temple on him, his biggest weakness. She defeats Iron Man because the plasma beam would have his insides looking like a puddle of Fanta. And she does defeat Mega Man because he has no answer for the long beam and is susceptible to spring ball hypnosis. But she would lose her other matchups. As mentioned before, she has no answer to Leo Luster's Riz. That, and while she attacks up to small planet level, this incredible work of power scaling proves that Leo Luster can casually vaporize Jupiter 3 times over in the blink of an eye. Samus simply can't compete. It's raps. In other matchups, she cannot, in fact, solo the Star Wars verse, as while she can attack at small planet levels, the power to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force, which obviously means that all Force users are literally capable of destroying planets, even though nothing close to that is ever actually shown. Trust. She does lose to the Federation Force at the end of Federation Force, and that's with her in Morph Ball form the whole time, meaning that the Federation Force scales to the Spring Ball, and thus Samus, barring long beam hacks. No, she cannot beat Kirby, he killed a god, no actual scaling needed there, end of discussion. And of course, even if Samus was this nigh omnipotent 5D shatterer of multiverses, or whatever made-up power levels Lore Raiders peddling these days for her, she still has no answer to Bat Ghost, the strongest character in fiction and non-fiction. He'll just concoct a special anti-bird magic spray in half a battosecond, winning beyond the concept of no-diffing. With that, I think I've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt the true power of Samus Aran. With all of Loraider's drivel dispelled once and for all, our fair community can now rest assured knowing that the ominous distortion of truth looming over us has been quelled. Thanks to the heroic efforts of the prestigious Tetra Galaxy Telecast, we can put those former escapades behind us and emerge as a community reborn and enhanced. I hope you all found this enlightening and worth your time to listen to, and if you're one of those corrupted by Loraider's many deceptions, I offer you this transmission and the chance to come back out of the shadows and join the rest of us in our new, more knowledgeable state of existence. However, if you're still insistent on disagreeing with me, aka being objectively wrong, if you find that there's something I didn't touch on, or if you have anything else on your mind, feel free to share your thoughts with me in the digital reply box down below, as doing so will help the channel grow and improve with time. That will be all for today's transmission. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you'll continue to come to this channel as the only reliable source of information, and I'll see you next broadcast. What's that? I forgot something? Samus and Joey. Oh, yeah! That. Sorry, I'm only discussing canon material here.